Greetings, peace and blessings. Happy Monday. I am the Moon Mama. How are you all doing today? Today I want to talk about the moon and its power in our lives. And first I want to encourage you to join the Mercury Retrograde course that starts Wednesday. Mercury's retrograding through Scorpio, and Mercury in Scorpio is here to deliver us, here to deliver us from our personal and collective hells is what I want to say. Scorpio is the shadow. Scorpio governs our shadow. It's the hard stuff, sex, money, inheritances. Scorpio is how we share power with others. So when I say inheritances, for instance, it's like if your parents set up a trust for you, or your parents die and then they make sure that whatever they have is yours. That's Scorpio energy. It's the stuff that many of us don't want to talk about. It's like, I know in the Black community, or at least in my family and stuff that I've seen, it's like those conversations are hard to have about, like, what are we gonna do when all of this is over with? What are we gonna do with the money? What are we gonna do with the property? Who's getting it? I know in my own family, I have seen such interesting things around, and behaved in such interesting ways around people dying and all that sort of stuff. So this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is really going to be life-changing because of what's going on in our country right now. Mercury's going to go direct the day before the election. So really, as I see it, one of the best things that we can do right now is truly harness our own power, our own sovereignty, and then use it as we desire to use it, and not as we're being programmed and conditioned to use. Like I said before in a previous video, for me, I am using my power to vote to actually take actions to create the things that I really want to have. You know, so if I would vote to make sure that my son has a better education, I'm going to ask myself first and foremost, well, what can I do really personally myself to make sure he has a better education? If I'm voting for health care or all of that sort of stuff, then I'm going to ask myself, well, how can I take responsibility for my health care, not making it be somebody else's responsibility? Because goodness knows, no elected official can do anything about my health care if I'm not doing my own thing about my own health, right? So this is about power and sharing power, and our proclivity to outsource our power, which is what we do. We give it away to others. And then that's when you know you're giving it away to others, when you're saying stuff like, this person did this and it makes me this, and this person did this and it makes me this, and they did this and it makes me this. Trump does this and it makes me this. No, all of those, no one's making anybody do anything. We're choosing it. And so if we can begin to see that, the Mercury, see how we're choosing it, how we're participating in it, how we're co-creating it, then we can take our power back. And so that's what the Mercury retrograde course will offer. Tools to take your power back and use it as you desire to. Okay, so today is a moon day. The moon is currently in Leo, and it's void of course. And it will be void of course until about 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. A void moon means that we are internal. It really is a way to sort of assimilate the last 2 days of the energy, to integrate it. And so the moon in Leo has been about, like, where are you in need of attention? Where are you in need of being seen? One of the things that just makes me so, like, you know, when I'm in my humanness about these planetary things, like treating them like they're people like us, is the Leo moon has to compete with the sun, because the sun governs Leo, and there is no competing with the sun, right? So what the Leo moon has to learn to do is to reflect the light of another. That's the thing, right? So, you know, people with Leo moons, generally, they desire a lot of attention. They want to be seen. They really need eyes on them, because that Leo energy says, look at me. Here I am, like the sun, right? But you're the moon, and the moon doesn't have any light of its own. So it has to find people who resonate with its frequency, and then find ways to reflect that. So I personally have a few people in my life who have Leo moons, and I see them struggle. I see them struggle with wanting attention, wanting to be acknowledged, wanting to be seen, wanting to be like the sun. They want to be that thing because that Leo energy is like, look at me, look at me. But they're the moon, so they have to find ways, they have to create something, they have to generate something, they have to be very artistic or very creative or very community driven and do things that benefit others. So that's how they reflect the light. They have to do things where others really benefit, and when they do that, it actually serves them and everyone else. So that void energy, the void moon today for a couple of hours, it's like, look in your life and see where you can be of service. And it's fantastic because the moon is going to move from Leo into Virgo, and Virgo is all about service. So the best thing to do is see how you can serve yourself, right? What do you need right now? What are you needing to fortify yourself? What are you needing to actually make yourself happy? What are you needing in order to bring more peace and joy and love into your life? What do you need? And see if those needs can be met solely by you, that they can be independent of anything or anyone else. And that includes, anything. So for me, I am in a process of really purifying my life and my connections to others. And one of the things that I'm looking at is how I have codependence, and I practice, where do I practice feeling good because somebody said something? Or I know one of the things that I've done a lot as a woman, it's like I could be really, if I'm in a relationship and I can be really like triggered by my partner, and if he doesn't do something, right? And then maybe he hasn't called, and I'm like so triggered that he hasn't called, and I can't believe he hasn't called. I can't believe he hasn't called. Then I get all upset, and then he calls, and then my mood changes. It's like I give somebody that much power in my life, like that it blows my mind when I've seen myself do that. And so I don't do it any longer because I know that I have the control and the power over my emotions. No one's choices, behaviors, and ways of being has power except that I give it to them, right? So look at where you're giving your power away. Look at the situations and experiences that you are inviting into your life that give you the illusion that you need someone else to be different in order for you to be happy or peaceful or loving or kind or compassionate. Because the work is to stand in those spaces of peace, love, happiness, compassion, and kindness, independent of anyone else. That is just the nature of who we are. So this is an interesting experience right now because in our world there's so much coming undone, and the things before that we were able to rely upon that would make us happy and peaceful and loving, like whatever the things are. I know for me, I used to really rely upon my friends. I used to really rely upon friends for information or friends to validate me. When I was married, I relied upon my ex-husband or my first husband to, sort of the way he looked or sounded when he talked to me gave me a sense of validation if he was okay with me or not. None of that stuff anymore. Like really sourcing ourselves from within and not outside of ourselves at all. So the moon is going to move into Virgo at about 10 a.m. this morning. And when the moon moves into Virgo, we are coming into a greater sense of service to ourselves. And it's important to recognize that when we are in service to ourselves, what we do for ourselves, we actually do for others. So if you are nurturing yourself, just the fact that you stand in a space of nurturing for yourself and love for yourself and unconditional acceptance for yourself, that is good for others. That is good for all of those that are in our communities and everything, because we become responsible for our own energy. Be responsible for the energy that you bring into the room or that you create. You are responsible for it. No one else can handle it. And like I said, that's something we don't get here because we practice codependence most often, relying upon others to really generate for us what we actually desire from the outside. But it has to come from the inside in order for it to be permanent. If you own it, then it's really yours. I had this experience with my doctor recently where he said to me that I should like stop drinking any alcohol. I'm not much of an alcohol drinker anyway, but he's like, just don't do anything right now, and don't smoke any marijuana, any of that. Like I have allowed myself to use marijuana to like settle my anxiety, because being a parent and all that sort of stuff has created anxiety experiences for me. And he's like, just work on settling it yourself with meditation, with breath work, with your crystals, without having to take anything into your body. Like really begin to source the energy from within you. And that's what we're up to. And I know that's rigorous. I know it is, but it's necessary. So I encourage you, please sign up for the Mercury Retrograde course today. The Mars Retrograde course is also significant right now because Mars Retrograde is going to be about your identity. The link tree is here. The link is here in the link tree. Your identity, how you identify yourself. And, you know, really you have to think about that. How do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as a woman, as a black woman, as such and such's daughter, as such and such's husband, or such and such's mother? Whatever those identities are, you live them out in your life in a way that, you know, I know when I have identified myself as a black woman, right? I realized that the meaning of black woman in my mind was oppression and not having full access, and not being safe and secure, and being in spaces that are dangerous. And so that was my experience. So you have to be clear about how you identify yourself. And then, you know, the Mars retrograde class will help you do the self-forgiveness to release those old identities that don't show up, you know, that don't serve you any longer. And then the Mercury retrograde course, so that we can begin to claim the power back from our shadows, from our shame, from our guilt, from our paranoia, from our obsession, from our sexual shadows. Like a lot of women have been so oppressed sexually that we have a lot of shame around our sexual desires. Like women are free-spirited beings, and many of us carry shame because our parents didn't teach us about who we are sexually, didn't teach us how to use our sexual energy, didn't tell us the truth about it. And so we want to really begin to undo that stuff. And the Mars retrograde course will help with that. Both these courses, only the investment is $66 in each course. And what's being offered is premier and phenomenal. You won't find it anywhere else. So with that, I'm the Moon Mama. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.